Okay, folks, we're going to start Fine Art Unit 3, The Art of Ancient Times. First thing we're going to do is look at the lesson resources. In Unit 3, there are different type of materials. If I look at the Unit 3 resources, I'll actually see some student guides, sketchbook ideas. There's keywords that are important to know. Actually, let me go back here. The keywords here are Acropolis, additive process, Asian, amphora, which is a Greek vase used for storing food. So if you ever have trouble with a word, check out the keywords. You'll find them there. And then there's also review and reference. So let's look at Unit 3, Art of Ancient Times. We may not know them all by name, but the artists and architects of the past civilizations have helped us to understand much about the time and the place in which they lived. By examining the paintings, sculptures, and buildings of ancient cultures, historians and archaeologists have gained insight into many aspects of societies, including religion, government, customs, and events. Artworks and architecture reflect the beliefs and attitudes of a civilization that created them. Mesopotamia was the birthplace of civilization. The world's first civilization arose in Mesopotamia in the Fertile Crescent, 3500 BC. The people of the region began constructing cities. And there's kind of a map here, Mesopotamia, and here in the world you'll notice that it's northwest of or east of Africa. Though in about 3500 BC, the Mesopotamian civilization was born. As you read through this lesson, or as I read it to you, you could use the student guide for notes, and you may view larger versions of artworks in the lesson by clicking on the lesson gallery. The first civilizations. Historians often call Mesopotamia the cradle of civilization. Why did people settle there, and what made it a distinct region? Two rivers. Mesopotamia is mostly desert, but there's two major rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, that flow through it. So where there's water, there's usually people. So nomadic groups settled in the valleys of the two rivers, where they became skilled farmers and mastered the techniques of irrigation and flood control. So there's that river there. So in 3500 BC, the people of the region began constructing those cities. The first cities ever built. In the centuries that followed, different groups rose to and fell from power in ancient Mesopotamia, including the Sumerians, the Assyrians, and the Babylonians. Mesopotamian accomplishments. The people of Mesopotamia developed the first form of government, known as the city-state. The Mesopotamians were the first to formalize religion, build structures, devoted kings and gods, and they also developed law codes, mathematics, pottery, weaving, and metalwork. So let's kind of look at some of the things here. There's their buildings, there's their artwork, there's their kind of costume and a dress, sculpture, buildings, and your glaze. The Sumerians were the earliest culture in Mesopotamia, and they invented the first writing system, which was called cuneiform. They wrote by pressing wedge-shaped reeds into moist clay to form patterns. Here's the first writing system. It's kind of interesting. Huh, interesting. There's some. We're going to go through this lesson a little quickly. Here's some interesting architecture. They believed that God protected each city-state. The temple was the heart of the community, and the temples were situated up top ziggurats, which is a pyramidal form consisting of a series of platforms. The ziggurat soared toward the heavens, where they believed gods resided. Priests prepared meals for the gods and offered sacrifices to them in the temples. And they even provided couches for the gods to sleep on. The height of the ziggurat was not only a symbol of the temple's proximity to the heavens, but it also served the practical function of flood-proofing the temple. The bricks that formed the ziggurats were made of mud straw. Builders discovered that if they baked the bricks in fire, they were strong and waterproof. Because the Mesopotamian desert had few trees for firewood, so fire-baked bricks were a luxury and sometimes used only on the exterior of some buildings. Okay, Nimrod. The painting by archaeologist Sir Austin Henry Layard depicts Layard's perception of the ancient city of Kolu, modern-day Nimrod, as it may have looked around 800 BC. Assyrian king Ashurnasirpal II, or Ashurnasirpal II, established the city as his capital and built a huge palace complex there. His son constructed the temple complex. Imagine the awe that visitors felt upon seeing the city for the first time. The imposing height of the buildings with their magnificent painted facades were in front of the buildings, and the temple that towered over the city. The city also boasted lush gardens and irrigated with water from the Tigris River. There also, in Mesopotamia, was relief sculpture. They used a relief sculpture to adorn the palace walls. Artists make relief sculptures by carving and chiseling into a flat surface, creating areas that are raised above and recessed below. Unlike sculpture in the round, which you view from all sides, you view relief sculpture only from the front. Assyrian relief sculptures are continuous narratives, stories that document the life of the king, including his courageous lion hunts, victorious military conquests or campaigns, and ceremonial and country life. All were meant to display for the king's subject his divine authority, power, and wealth. To emphasize the grandeur of these sculptures, artists painted them in brilliant colors, although little of that paint remains today. The relief sculpture, I won't say his name, the second hunting lions, is 7 foot 8 inches high and adorned with what is thought to have been an important reception hall in his palace. Babylon. Babylon was located on the Euphrates River and was a powerful city-state under King Nebuchadnezzar II, who desired to make it the most splendid city in the region. He built and renovated magnificent structures, including the Temple of Marduk and then famed Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The main gate through the city walls is the Ishtar Gate, open onto the processional way, a large avenue that led to the temple. The Ishtar Gate was named after a god or goddess. The Ishtar Gate is named after goddesses of love and protector of the military. The baked bricks forming the gate are covered with turquoise glaze that sparkles in the sunlight. The gate is adorned with bulls and dragons, and the bulls symbolize Adad, god of storms. The dragons symbolize Marduk, protector of god of Babylon. Very pretty, beautiful. The processional way led to the Ishtar Gate to the Temple of Marduk, and the avenue had great ceremonial significance because it was the route for processions during the New Year festival. Directly before the Ishtar Gate The walls of the avenue are covered with turquoise glazed bricks, 60 fierce winged lions which symbolize Ishtar. Oh wow, how beautiful. Some of the lions along the processional way have white fur and yellow manes. If you want to see the wall in more detail, let's drag the magnifier over the image. Wow. That is just beautiful. There also was a Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which was a magnificent garden near his palace. According to ancient descriptions, workers built a series of 4 vaulted terraces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and stairs winding up to the top. Exotic plants filled the terraces and spilled over the edges. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon no longer exist. We have only ancient writings for descriptions, but Greek historians describe the gardens and claim them as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Now here we have the Temple of Marduk. The greatest Greek historian described the Temple of Marduk as rising 270 feet, having 7 stepped layers inside the temple, a richly decorated ceremonial couch, and a gold table. So let's take a look at this. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag the correct words in here, or think about it. So Mesopotamia, blank complexes reflect the central role that blank played in the lives of people. The structures were built on blank to overwhelm blank and demonstrate the divine power of the blank. Building facades and walls were covered with blank and were often blank. Well, let's see. Mesopotamians' palace and temple reflect the central role that religion played in the lives of people. The structures were built on a monumental scale to overwhelm visitors and demonstrate the divine power of the king. Building facades and walls were covered with relief sculptures and painted. Well, now that we've talked about the art of ancient Mesopotamia and learned more about their architecture, art, and sculpture, let's go on to our next lesson, which should be the 301 quiz, which many of you have taken while going through this lesson, and then the 302 discussion, followed by the 303 Art of Egypt. I look forward to working with you again in our next read-along of Section 3 of Fine Art Minnesota Virtual Academy.